Om Namo Shivaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Thank you for joining us to seek the blessings of Radha Madhav, Radha Shyamsundar, Krishna Balaram, Bar Gopal, Gaunitai Srila Prabhupada, Guru Maharaj, and the assembled devotees. So, we want to continue with Bhagavad Gita, and we've had a very brief look at the first 3 chapters yesterday. So today, chapter 4, which is entitled Jnana Yoga, Transcendental Knowledge. So the summary of this chapter is spiritual knowledge is known as Shruti. There's 2 types. There's Smriti, which is to be remembered, which is spoken, and another one which is heard, that which is heard. In bygone ages, people would hear such knowledge and remember it and assimilate it and perfectly communicate it to the next person without any adulteration. Shruti. Transcendental knowledge is this knowledge which outlines how one can establish their divine knowledge, their divine connection with God. A famous Vedic quote is, aim to see God through the ears rather than through the eyes. Often we won't believe something until we see it with our own eyes, which actually is correct, that I want to see it to believe it. However, that is only correct if we have divine eyes in relation to the Supreme. So in relation to the Supreme, if we don't have divine eyes, we won't be able to see, even when we see it, we won't be able to understand it. However, if we want to really understand spiritual knowledge, we can do it through the ears, by hearing about the Supreme. The themes of this chapter are as follows. How transcendental knowledge is passed down and its effect. Here, Krishna explains how he has, in the past, given this same knowledge that he's giving to Arjuna, to Ikshvaku, the sun god, or Vivaswan. And Vivaswan passed it down to Ikshvaku, his disciple, who passed it down to his disciple. And in that way, there's a chain of disciplic succession. But Krishna also explains that this chain was broken at some point and the knowledge was lost. So he's re-establishing this knowledge again through Arjuna, through the Bhagavad Gita. He also explains how he reciprocates with others. And there's very famous verses in this chapter. Janma karma chame devyam. He explains how if one can understand the activities of Krishna and can understand his appearance, then upon leaving this world or this body, one will not come back to this world. One will go back to the spiritual world. He explains many things in this chapter, actually. It's got some amazing verses which are worth reading again and again, because he shows how he reciprocates with his devotees. When one takes shelter of Krishna, one takes steps towards Krishna, the Lord takes many steps towards that person as well. Krishna also explains the different types of karma. What is karma, action? What is akarma? What is vikarma, forbidden action? And what is akarma, which is inaction? So this is perhaps a little complicated, but not very complicated. Karma is when we do activities, maybe they're part of our duty, but those activities will attract a reaction. because that karma is done in relation to this body. So whatever's done in relation to this body and other bodies will have a reaction. So if we do good things, we get good things back. If we do crazy things, then we get punished. There are activities which are forbidden, vikarma, which are very sinful activities, and for which we get punished. And there's activities which have no reaction. So we are acting because we can't fail to act. The soul is active. There's no circumstance in which the soul is inactive. But that activity that is done has no reaction. So we might be surprised with this. How can we have activity which has no reaction? Because we are doing activity. The point is that that activity is in relation with the Supreme. It's in relation with bhakti, devotion. And because it's connected with the Supreme, there's no material reaction. There is a spiritual reaction because we're going closer by doing that act of in devotion or bhakti, we're coming closer to the Supreme. So 3 types of action. And he also describes the importance of knowledge and having a guru. So he explains how tadvidi panipatena, one should approach a self-realized soul who knows the truth about the Lord and serve him, hear from him, and in that way get this connection with the Supreme. It's a big, and Krishna explains how the self-realized soul can impart the truth because he knows the truth. So this is where the importance of a spiritual master is explained by Krishna. Because he himself, when he came to this world 5,000 years ago, he took instructions from Sandipani Muni. He went to the school of Sandipani Muni and learned the 64 arts. Of course, the Lord doesn't need to go to school. He doesn't need a guru. He is the original guru. So, but to show an example to all of us, he also takes a spiritual master. The 5th chapter is Karma Yoga, action in Krishna consciousness. So quite similar to the title is quite similar to the 3rd chapter, Karma Yoga. But here, it's Karma Yoga going a step further. There, in the 3rd chapter, Krishna describes the position of a person who does his duty without attachment. So he does his duty, but he is not, or she is not, attached to the fruits of labor. So, but here he connects it to the Supreme. How one does Karma Yoga, but the fruits are, if you like, fruits are not only just attached, but the fruits are done for the pleasure of the Supreme. So it's a step. It's a step closer to Bhakti Yoga. There's very, very little difference between Karma Yoga, action in Krishna consciousness, and Bhakti Yoga. Arjun wanted further clarification as he was confused by Krishna's instructions of renunciation. So the Lord guides him how to turn work into worship. Because Krishna often would say to him, you must do your duty. And then he would also say, you should be completely detached. So this confused Arjun. So he asked the question, how can I do both? So Krishna explains, outwardly performing all actions, but inwardly renouncing their fruits, the wise man, purified by the fire of transcendental knowledge, attains peace, detachment, forbearance, spiritual bliss. etc. How can we get there? Every journey starts with a step. And in this chapter, Krishna explains how to take steps in the right direction. There are steps leading to further entanglement in worldly complexities, but there are also steps leading to a life of liberation, freedom, tranquility. So what are the themes in this chapter? Nishkam Karma Yoga is described, where the results are surrendered to the Lord. So you do the activity, you're not attached to the activity, but not just that, you surrender the result to the Lord. That is Nishkam Karma Yoga. That is extremely close to Bhakti Yoga. The results of such action is that we, the soul, will realize we are not the doers. So this is quite a challenging philosophical point to understand practically, that we are not the doers. So who is the doer then, if we're not the doer? Well, actually describe that we are one of the doers, but there are several doers. There are the Paramatma, the super soul, is situated within the body, who is with us, guiding us. He's witnessing what we're doing. And he's protecting us as well. Those three things are the actions of Paramatma. So he's one of the doers. Another is material nature, or the devatas. And the soul, its role, our role in our lives is that we desire. We want to do things. And the Lord fulfills those desires one way or another. So our commitment, if you like, to the action is our thought of doing it. We, however, because of false ego, think that we are the doers. We are the only doers, but we're not. We're just one element of the doing, which is the desiring, the wanting. Everything else is fulfilled by Mother Nature or by the Lord. When taken shelter of the Lord, the soul sees all souls with equal vision. The Lord also gives the first hint of Astanga Yoga to Arjuna. So when we take to this path of God consciousness, we can understand that everything is God's creation, and everyone is part of God's life. And we would recognize the soul is equal, whether one has a body of a dog, like it explains in one of the verses, dog eater or elephant or a sage or a Brahmin. The self-realized soul will not discriminate between anyone because he sees everything in relation to the Supreme Lord. And that's a really high position to have. It's a very elevated position. And Krishna also explains in the very last verse how one can become, when one can be very peaceful. He gives a peace formula. It's text number 29 of chapter 5. It describes how when one understands that he is the ultimate benefactor of all we are doing, which is one of the aspects, to understand that actually everything that is being done by us and others is for the Lord, whether we understand that or not, then we will attain peace. There are a couple of other points as well in that verse. I can't exactly remember them now, but he gives a peace formula, how we can be peaceful in this world, even whilst living in this world. Next chapter, 6th chapter, is Dhyan Yoga, because he gives a hint of it in the 5th chapter. So at the end of the 5th chapter, Krishna briefly mentions the system of Astanga Yoga, the strict, regulated focus regime of the ascetic yogi. Why does he go into this? A number of reasons. Because Arjuna wanted to go to the forest and give up his, or renounce everything. Okay, Krishna explained, you want to renounce? This is what you have to do. You want to become a yogi? This is what you have to do. He also spoke this chapter because he wanted us to understand that there are different processes of yoga, and some of them may suit us, some of them may not suit us. So he's giving us a choice as well. But he's also going to explain how Dhyana Yoga works, which is not easy. In the present day, millions of people worldwide practice elements of this path, Astanga Yoga, primarily as Hatha Yoga and Pranayama. Hatha Yoga is the different bodily exercises that are involved in yoga. And Pranayama are the breathing exercises that are performed. So the combination of these two is effectively Astanga Yoga, which offers benefits for physical and emotional well-being. The problem with the modern day yoga is that God is almost taken out of the picture. But yoga actually means to connect with God. So if we're doing Hatha Yoga, if we're doing Pranayama, without the Lord being the center of that, then we're missing the point of yoga altogether. And Krishna also describes how to perform Astanga Yoga. Let's see if I got that. In this chapter, the path of Astanga Yoga is explained in its entirety. The themes of the chapter as follows. The state of the mind. The state of the mind is described. Krishna explains in text 3, 4, and 5 how if one does not have control over one's mind, then the mind may be one's worst enemy. Whereas if one can control one's mind, then the mind can be one's best friend. So this Astanga Yoga is to assist with the control of the mind. The detailed practice of Astanga Yoga, which is impractical in this age. Why? Because Krishna explains how one needs to sit in a straight posture for a long period of time, focusing the eyes on the tip of the nose, regulating the breath so that we breathe in and breathe out in a very regulated way, holding that breath within. And in order to focus on ourself in connection with the Supreme Self. But it's a very difficult process to follow in Kali Yuga because we don't have the patience, we don't have the determination, nor do we have the strength to do that. It's not an easy process. So when Krishna finishes describing the process, Arjuna questions this practice as it is very difficult. He says, Chanchalam hi manah, Krishna. He says to Krishna that my mind is obstinate, it's very strong. It's Chanchalam, it keeps moving from here to there. I can't control it. And it's easier for me to control the wind. So Krishna explains to Arjuna, yes, you are right. The mind is undoubtedly very hard to control, but it is possible by practice and by detachment. Those are the two ingredients required if we want to try to control the mind. Become detached from everything around us. Don't worry too much about things that are going on around us. And practice. When we're practicing bhakti yoga or meditation, we will notice that the mind will go astray, but you bring it back. You keep bringing it back. Keep bringing the mind back to the mantra. And Arjun then had another doubt that, what if I take to this path of spirituality and I failed? Am I neither in the spiritual world, neither am I in the material world? I have lost my place in both. It's like having your feet in two boats which are going in different directions. You're going to fall in the middle into the water. So then Krishna reassures Arjuna that person who starts on this journey and may fail, perhaps he fails, but he doesn't fail. He is never a loser. Even a small amount of advancement on this path will protect the person from the greatest danger, which is death. So Krishna really gives such wonderful reassurance to Arjuna. Don't worry. You will not fail in the first place. But if you take to this path of connecting with the Supreme through yoga, through bhakti yoga, principally in this age of Kali Yuga, you will not be a loser. Whatever you have done will never be lost. Even if you do 1%, that 1% stays with you. In next life, it becomes 2%. So this is a great assurance for us that we are doing the right thing by doing as much bhakti as we can in this life. We are not wasting our time. We are connected with the Supreme, and it will always stead us in a good light with the Supreme Lord. So, and the final verse, I think it's verse number 47 or 48 in chapter 6. Krishna confirms that that person who performs bhakti yoga is the best of yogis. So it's such a wonderful chapter. And the first 6 chapters of the Bhagavad Gita are said to relate to effectively action, karma yoga. The last 6 are Dhyan Yoga, and the middle 6, where we're going to go next, are in Bhakti Yoga. So Krishna introduces us to Bhakti Yoga to this in the end, at the end of 6th chapter, and that's where we're going to go in the next chapter. So I wanted to stop there. Any questions, any comments, any realizations, anything you'd like to share? Because I know everybody's been studying Bhagavad Gita. So,
Prabhuji, Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna, Hare
Are all our Gurujis, those who are our spiritual guru, are they all self-realized?
They need to be.
Yeah.
Yeah, correct. They need to be. If they are giving diksha, if you like, then they must be, because they want to connect us to the Supreme. If they're giving shiksha, which is diksha, means they enter a formal contract with you, which is that we chant the Maha Mantra and follow rules, and they promise that they will deliver us to the Supreme Lord. If they're giving shiksha, if we got many shiksha gurus, and we can have many shiksha gurus, there can only be one diksha guru. Shiksha guru, the rule isn't so strict that he has to be self-realized, because if we look at the Srimad Bhagavatam, in one of the cantos, it talks about, I think it's 25, 26 gurus that one can have. It's all different types of gurus. We can learn from pretty much everything in this world. We can learn. So they can become our Shiksha gurus. So there's no such a heavy rule for the Shiksha gurus. But for the Diksha guru, yes, they should be self-realized. How do we know, right? How do we know that that person is self? There's a period of observation. We observe the person, and the guru also observes us. It's a two-way process, and that observation can take a few minutes, or it can take years and years and years. But that observation is important, so that one is sure that this is the right person who will take me to Krishna. It's the most important relationship. And it's in this age of Kali, it's a really hard one to find or establish a relationship with the Guru. However, we have to be rest assured that the Lord is in our heart. He knows in our heart what we want. We are seeking, we are sincerely seeking a guide, a spiritual guide who will take us back to Him. He will reciprocate. He will fulfill that strong desire of yours. He will. It's just a question of time. But He will. And we should also be rest assured that by studying, Prabhupada's got a very unique position in this world, because we are studying his books, we're studying under his guidance. He is our Shiksha Guru, and he himself has the strength to take us back. So even if we somehow fail to find a Diksha Guru in this life, Prabhupada will take us back. He's written those books. There's a huge responsibility on him. If you write books like this and you inspire so many, then you have a responsibility to take those people who are following you back to the spiritual world. So I'm a firm believer that Prabhupada, through his Shiksha, through his books, will give us shelter directly.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Babuji.
Thank you. Thank you, Nanivan. Thank you very much.
Prabhuji,
Yes, Madhavan.
if anybody come to you and ask you simple question, can you explain difference between Bhagavad Katha and Bhagavad Gita in simple word? What can you answer them?
Yes. There's two books. Bhagavad
Yeah.
Gita is this book we are reading, 18 chapters, 700 verses.
Mm-hmm.
The Bhagavad Katha is based on the Bhagavad Puran,
Puran,
which
yeah.
is over 300 chapters, 18,000 verses, sloka.
Yeah.
This is like the ABC. Bhagavad Gita is ABC. The Bhagavad Puran is
Whole ABCD.
A levels.
Yeah.
A levels.
Mm-hmm.
Where Bhagavad Gita finishes,
Mm-hmm.
Bhagavad Katha starts.
Okay.
So this is like ABC.
Mm-hmm.
Very important ABC, because if we don't know ABC, we're not going to know anything.
Yeah.
So Bhagavad Gita is fundamentally important. If we just understand Bhagavad Gita, it's enough.
So Bhagavad Gita એ તમારી લાઈફ કેવી રીતે જીવી એ શીખડાવે છે, રાઈટ?
બરોબર.
અને ભાગવત કથામાંથી એનો આ સાર આવ્યો છે. That's what you say? Yeah?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay.
That's correct. That's
Yeah.
correct. Bhagavad Gita
You know,
shows us how to live our life.
hmm.
And what it is, Bhagavatam, see, Bhagavad Gita is a conversation between Krishna
And Arjun.
and Arjun. Bhagavatam is a discussion between two devotees about Krishna.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the second question, તમે મને લાગે છે આ ગીતા જે રિફર કરતા હશો એ ઇંગ્લિશમાં હશે, બરાબર?
Original is Sanskrit and then translated into English. Yes.
And written by?
Original is written by Vedvyas and English translation is by Srila Prabhupada.
Srila Prabhupada. Okay, okay. Is there any Gujarati?
Yes.
ગુજરાતીમાં લખી છે?
ગુજરાતીમાં translate થઈ છે. And I think it might be online as well. હું ગોતી દઈશ and we'll send it to you.
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
Good question. Thank you. ગુજરાતીમાં definitely છે, but I think
Okay.
it's available online as well.
Yeah. ઇંગ્લિશમાં છે ને સમજાય, પણ મને
Yeah, it's hard.
વર્ડ ટુ વર્ડ સમજવું હોય ને તો મને એમ થાય હું ગુજરાતીમાં
હા.
વાંચું ને તો મને વધારે મજા આવે.
ના, એ તો બરોબર છે. You're absolutely spot on.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Madhuben, thank you so much. Very good. So if there's nothing else, we can stop there. Bhagavad Gita ki jai. We'll continue tomorrow.